Okay, this is the practice exam for MAC 1140 Pre-Calculus, covering the topics on Exam 1, which went over Appendix 3, Appendix 4, and Sections 4.5 through 4.7. On your practice tests that I've included in your Blackboard shell, numbers 1 through 24 on the practice test are the topics that were covered in Appendix 3. Okay, so we start with numbers 1 through 4, where you're being asked to use the special products formulas in order to FOIL. So in other words, you're using the shortcuts that you've been encouraged to use in the previous classes, and I had stressed in class that you need to start using them at this point. These were all formulas that were introduced in MAT 1033, then again in 1105, and we continue to review them. Okay, so doing the foiling process the long way would mean that you're going first times first, outer times outer, inner times inner, last times last, then combining like terms for a total of 5 steps. This will get you the foiled out product in 2 steps. All you're going to do is square the first term as this special product indicates and square the second term, then put a minus in front of it. Okay, so just square. Just like this says, square again, but the second term, and then throw a minus in there. You can be looking at either the first binomial or the second one. Doesn't matter. Just carry out those 2 steps. Just square this, throw a minus between them. That takes care of all 4 of the products and combining like terms. So when you square this first term, you got to square the 4 as well as the x. You're going to get 16 x squared. When you square the back term, you get 9, and then you just throw a minus in there, and that's it. It's all FOILed out, and like terms are already combined by way of that shortcut. Okay, there's also a shortcut for FOILing out this type of binomial. When you're squaring a binomial, whether it has a plus sign or a minus sign in it, the shortcut is square, double, square, which is suggested by this special products formula. This says to square the first term, which would be the 3x. Then you're going to multiply. Whenever they refer to a, that means the constant. When they refer to x, that means the term containing x. So this says square the term containing x. Then this says multiply the constant times the term containing x, but then double it. So double the product. That's just the short, easy way to say it. And then when you square the second time, you'll be squaring just the content. So square, double, square, anytime you're squaring a binomial. This will take the place of you having to write this twice, 3x minus 2 times 3x minus 2 again, and then doing the 4 products where you go first times first, outer times outer, etc., and then combining like terms. So that would be 6 steps, and you're going to do it in 3. Okay, so square, I'll just write the shortcut over here. Double, square. And don't forget, when you do doubling, you're doubling the product. Okay, so we're going to square that term containing the x. Then we're going to double the product. And you're going to have a minus in front of that doubled product because there's a minus in the original parentheses. So the second term always has the sign that's in the original parentheses. So it's minus double the product of these 2 terms. So 3x times 2. Okay, and then when you square again, that term will be positive because squares can't be negative. So the first square and the last square have to have a positive in front of them. So now you're going to square that item. So that would be 4. Okay, when you simplify that middle term, although you could do this all in one shot because you can probably hold 6x in your head. That would be what you get when you do the product. 2 times 3x is 6x. And then when you double it, it would be 12x. So you don't have to write it out like this. You can just jump right into that middle term. Okay, squaring the first term would be squaring the 3 as well as the x. That'll give you 9x squared. Whoops, just threw my pencil away. And then for the next term, this would be 6x times 2, 12x. So negative 12x in the middle, and then plus 4. Okay, and that's your foiled out product. Okay, next one was supposed to be cubing. I believe that's what number 3 was. Let me check that out. Yes, it was cubing a binomial. I was just trying to write these out ahead of time. Okay, so 3x plus 4 cubed. This was the shortcut that I introduced in class. Only in class when I went over Appendix 3, I did a binomial where there was a minus sign. So you have an example of cubing a difference, a binomial that has a minus sign in your notes. And now I'm doing cubing a sum, a binomial that has a plus sign. So the signs were a little bit different, but basically this same scenario, only when there's a minus sign, that's a minus and that's a minus, the second term and the last term. But when you are cubing a sum, a binomial that has a plus sign, it's plus signs all the way through. Okay, so following this shortcut, what this means here is that you have a term containing x, which is our 3x, and then you have a constant. And what this shortcut says to do, because if you try to do this the long way, where you go 3x plus 4 times 3x plus 4 times 3x plus 4, you're looking at about 10, 11 steps. This will take you right to the answer in way fewer steps. So what this says is take the term containing the x and cube it. Then you're going to go 3 times whatever the constant is, which is 4 in this case, times the term containing x squared. You're basically going to do the same thing here, only the square will move over to the constant term rather than the term containing x. So again, you're going to have 3 times a times x, just like you had here, only the square will be on the constant. You'll be squaring the constant this time, but not the term containing x. But you will be multiplying all those. And then that fourth term will be the constant. That's what a refers to, cubed. Okay, here we go. Okay, taking the term containing x, doing just what the shortcut says, cubing it. Then it's going to be 3 times the constant times the term containing x squared plus, again, 3 times the constant squared, that constant is 4 in the binomial, squared, times the term containing x, plus the constant cubed. So that constant is this. And now you're just going to get your calculator to help out with this and go right into the final answer rather than, going through 9 or 10 steps to get there if you were foiling it longhand. Okay, so when you cube, you're going to have to cube the number as well as the variable, so that'll be 27x cubed. Here you're going to have 3 times 4 times 9. Don't forget you'll also be squaring that x. So just get your calculator to help out with this. 3 times 4 times 9, because 3 squared is 9. Get my calculator. So 3 times 4 times 9 is 108. So for all of that, 108 is the coefficient of your x squared term. Okay, then moving on to this one, you can get your calculator to help with this as well. It'll be 3 times 16 times 3. Or 9 times 16, same thing. Okay, that's 3 times 3 times 16, 144. And that is the coefficient on your x term. And then 4 cubed, you can put that in your calculator as well if you like. So there you go, 3x plus 4 cubed, all foiled out, but without actually doing the foiling. Did that one by shortcut as well. So just a review of the 3 special product formulas that were introduced in Appendix 3. Okay, moving on to number 4, which I think is a repeat of what we did in problem number 2. We have 8x plus 3, and we are squaring it. So anytime you are squaring a binomial, you're going to go square, double, square. Okay, square, you're going to double. Don't forget, you're doubling the product of these two things, and then square again. Okay, so when you square the first time, it'll be this term squared. That would give you 64x squared. When you double the product, just do the product first. 8 times 3 is 24x. That's the product. And you're doubling by doubling the coefficient. So when you double that coefficient, it's 48x. And then square, second time you'll be squaring that second item, which is 9. This second term always takes on the sign that you see in the original parenthesis. So there it is, all foiled out without writing this twice and then doing all the foiling arrows. Okay, moving on to number 5. In problem number 5, we have find the quotient and the remainder, and we are being asked in numbers 5 through 9 to do it by long division. Use long division to find the quotient and the remainder, so we'll do it just like that. Okay, so if we're going to do long division, I'm going to put my dividend here. 12x squared plus 6x minus 13. Now, I'm sure you noticed in this practice test that all the questions were multiple choice. I only did them like that for ease of producing the answer key. But on your actual test, I want you to be informed that approximately 85% of your test will be free response, and then a very small portion of it, about 15%, will be multiple choice. Okay, so here we have 12x squared plus 6x minus 13. And we are dividing by 3x. So if we are using this long division process, this is how we set it up. We ask ourselves, what does this need to be multiplied by to get this? The answer to that is 4x. This times 4x will give you this. So that's step 1, asking yourself, what do I multiply this by to create the leftmost term in the dividend? Once you get a piece of the quotient, because you're going to get it piece by piece each time, repeating 3 steps. So you come up with a term in the dividend. Second step is you multiply it by the divisor. That'll give you 12x squared. And the third step is that you subtract. So 12x squared minus 12x squared, that's gone. Bring down the next term and repeat. What do you have to multiply this by to get this? 2. As soon as you come up with a new piece of your quotient, multiply it by the divisor. So 2 times 3x is 6x, and subtract. Okay, so that cancels. Bring down the next term. Okay, so your quotient here is 4x plus 2, and your remainder is just negative 13. Okay, moving on to number 6. Okay, number 6, let's see, you are dividing by x plus 8. Doing long division all the way up through number 9. Okay, then what you have in your dividend is, let's see, x plus 8, 2x squared plus 10x minus 48. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, so now we have more than one term in our divisor, but we're going to use those same 3 steps. We're going to ask ourselves, in this case, what do I multiply the leftmost term of the divisor, not this whole thing, but just the leftmost terms. What do I multiply this by to turn it into this? Okay, so x times 2x would be 2x squared. Once you come up with the answer to what do I multiply this by to get this, and there it is right there. You multiply it by everything in this divisor. So you multiply it by the x, you multiply it by the 8. So 2x times x, 2x squared. 2x times 8, 16x. And then that third step, just like the previous problem, which was slightly easier because we only had one term out here. Second step is always subtract. When you're subtracting an entire polynomial from the one that's above it, it just means switch the sign. We're subtracting this polynomial, so switch the signs on every term in the bottom row. Pay attention to those switch signs, which is why I circled them. So it's 2x squared minus 2x squared, those are gone. Positive 10x minus 16x is negative 6x, and then bring down that one more term, and that would be negative 48. Okay, now you're going to go again. Okay, now we're looking for the next piece of the quotient. Okay, we have one piece so far, which is that 2x. So we go again now. What do I have to multiply this leftmost term by to get this leftmost term? Okay, turning that into this. That would require multiplication by negative 6. So as soon as I come up with that answer, what do I have to multiply this by to get this? It goes up there. And now use it in a multiplicative sense by everything in the divisor. So negative 6 times x, negative 6x. Negative 6 times 8, negative 48. And subtract, which means switch the signs of everything in the bottom row. So negative 6x plus 6x, gone. Negative 48 plus 48, that's gone. So you have 0 this time for a remainder. So your quotient is 2x minus 6, and your remainder is 0. Okay, moving on to number 7. Let me just check these as I go along. Number 6. Okay, number 7, we have our dividend. Okay, so we have 4x cubed. Then we have plus 11x squared. Okay, then we have minus 17x and positive 2, or positive 12. Okay, and then what we're dividing by 4x cubed, 11x squared minus 17x plus 12, dividing by x plus 4. So just slightly longer, but same procedure as in the previous problem. We're asking ourselves, what do we multiply this leftmost term in the divisor? What do we multiply that by to get the leftmost term here? The leftmost term in the dividend is going to change each time. So you're going to go, you're going to make several passes through the same 3 steps. Okay, it starts with this. What you multiply x by to get this would be 4x squared. Once you come up with that term, multiply it by everything in the divisor. So 4x squared times x is 4x cubed. And then 4x squared times 4 is 16x squared. Make sure you're lining up like terms. So if this is the x cubed column, you should have nothing but x cubes here. This is x squared, you should have nothing but x squareds here. Third step, after you've taken this term in the quotient and multiplied it by everything, is to switch the signs so that what you're really doing is subtracting this bottom row from the top row. So 4x cubed minus 4x cubed, that's gone. 11x squared minus 16x squared is negative 5x squared, and then bring one more term down. Okay, again, we're going to ask ourselves, what do we multiply the leftmost term here, which is the leftmost term here is always going to be x, but this one keeps changing. This time we're trying to multiply it by something that will produce a negative 5x squared. So that would be negative 5x. Okay, I just came up with the second term of my quotient. Now multiply it by everything in the divisor. So negative 5x times x is negative 5x squared. Negative 5x times 4, negative 20x. And then we are in the subtraction step, which really means switch the signs of the bottom row and combine with the row above it. So this cancels. That's always going to cancel unless you do something wrong. And then negative 17x plus 20x is going to be 3x. And then bring one more term down, which is that positive 12. Okay, then we're going to ask ourselves, again, same question. Each time we come up with a new term in the quotient, we're asking ourselves, what do I multiply this by to turn it into this? So x multiplied by 3 would give you this 3x. Once you get a new term in the quotient, multiply it by everything in the divisor. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 4 is 12. We're going to subtract the whole bottom row by switching the signs of each of the terms in the bottom polynomial. This cancels, so you end up with 0 as your remainder. So quotient is what you see up here. 4x squared minus 5x plus 3. And your remainder is 0. Okay, moving on to number 8. In number 8, go to the next page. Okay, in number 8, we're dividing by 5x minus 2. And then the dividend is 25x cubed plus 10x squared plus 7x minus 3. Let's make sure I copied it right. 5x minus 2. Okay, so moving on here. This time we're going to be asking ourselves, what do you have to multiply 5x by to create each of the leftmost terms in the dividend? So right now the leftmost term is this one. So this multiplied by 5x squared would give you this term right here. Once you get this term, multiply it by everything in the divisor. So this 5x squared times 5x is 25x cubed. 5x squared times negative 2, negative 10x squared. Okay, now we go into the subtraction step, which means switch the sign of the entire bottom row and combine with the row above it. So 25 minus 25 on that x cubed term makes that column go away. And then this is 10 plus 10. So this is 20 on your x squared term. Bring down an additional term. Okay, start again. What do you have to multiply 5x by to get the leftmost term now? 4x. So that would be 4x. Then once you get that 4x, multiply it by everything in the divisor. So 4x times 5x is 20x squared. And then 4x times negative 2 is negative 8x. And then you're going to subtract by switching the signs of the bottom row. Okay, so 20, take away 20, that's going to cancel. And then 7x plus 8x is 15x. 7x plus 8x is 15x. Bring down one more term. Okay, so 5x times what will give you 15x, because now this is the leftmost term, so that would be 3. 3 times 5x is 15x. And 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Now subtract that bottom row by switching the signs on the bottom polynomial. 15x minus 15x is gone. Negative 3 plus 6 is 3. And so your quotient, and you can't go any further because when the degree of this term is less than the degree of the leftmost term here, you can't go any further. There's nothing you can multiply that by to turn it into just a 3. So your quotient is 5x squared plus 4x plus 3. And your remainder is 3. Okay, moving to number 9. Problem number 9. We have x to the 4th. We do not have an x cubed term, so I'm going to put this as a space holder for the 3rd degree column. We do have a squared term, 4x squared. We do not have a 1st degree term, so I'll put that we have 0 of that particular term just as a space holder. And then we have a positive 8. Okay, so now we're going to be dividing by x squared plus 1. Okay, so concentrating on this leftmost term here, what do you multiply that by to create that? That would be x squared. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times 1 is x squared. You got to make sure and line it up with the proper column. Plus 1x squared, you can put the 1 there or not. And then just let's subtract. So we're going to switch the sign of this, switch the sign of this. So x to the 4th minus x to the 4th, that'll be gone. I don't think we're going to have any x cubed columns, but you can bring that down anyway. And then 4 take away 1 would be 3x squared. Okay, so since you don't have any cubed columns, you don't need to know what you should multiply this by to turn it into that, because it's only going to end up being 0, and you don't need a 0 in the middle of your terms in the quotient. So I wouldn't worry about this. And then I would ask myself, what do I have to multiply this by to get 3x squared? That would just be 3. Once you get a new piece in your quotient, a new term, then you're going to go 3 times x squared, 3x squared. And you can bring down these terms. And then 3 times 1, that would have to go under here because this is the column with the constants. And then don't forget to subtract, since that just means switch the signs. So this would be 3x squared minus 3x squared. That's gone. You have 0 x terms, and 8 minus 3 is just 5. So that's your remainder. So your quotient here is x squared plus 3, and your remainder is 5. Okay, and that's all the problems having to do with long division. Just wanted to give you plenty of opportunities to practice on that particular skill. So let's see, make sure answer's right here. This was supposed to be x squared plus 3, remainder 5. Beautiful. Okay, next we're going to move to numbers 10 through 22 actually, where we're going to be factoring, and I'm going to do that in the next video. Okay, so in this very first video, we completed numbers 1 through 9.